My man, it's been a while. It's been a minute, as they say in America. How you been?
Yeah, I've been all right. I've been, it's just busy. Everything's busy. I mean, we've got our fifth baby on the way, so that's a big deal for us. We've got court cases coming up. We've got one in the Supreme Court that we're organising to get ready for. So there's lots happening over here.
Oh,
We're
mate.
building our own little communities as well, which is very productive. It's a very positive thing that's happening. It's bringing people together. Yeah, lots of things happening.
No, it's awesome, mate. That's the community thing. I would love to know where that's about. But first of all, massive congratulations, mate, on the fifth. The fifth. That's awesome. And the court case. I'd love to. Yeah, can you talk about those things or not?
Yeah, I can talk about all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Because I remember last time you had like a almost like an injunction on what you could say and what you couldn't say.
Yeah. That we removed that pretty quickly. We just had to
Yeah,
go
yeah.
to court over that.
Is it the same case?
No, this is a case that goes back to the beginning of the very first lockdowns in Victoria, in Melbourne, which was the beginning of the lockdowns worldwide. I think we had the first one in the world,
Yeah,
and
2020.
I was very prominently publicly promoting the idea of not abiding by those lockdowns. So I had my gym. I'd say to everyone on Facebook and Instagram, "Come to my gym, come down. I'm open. I've looked at the law, and they can't shut me down." And I'm just sort of paraphrasing. And the authorised health officer with all the police came down, and we had a bit of an interaction, and we had a couple of videos out of those two interactions, and they became very, very viral. They had millions of views, and that's the sort of thing that messes up the government plan to control us, because they use the narrative. They have a false narrative. The false narrative, or the lie, is what they built their power base from. So if you can break down their lie and show that it's not true, a lot of people become inspired and they go, "Yeah, what a load of crap. I'm not going to go along with it either." And that's the one thing they don't want people to do, which is why we have all the censorship, because that affects their narrative, which is what their power is. Their ability to convince people of a lie is where they get their power from. So anyway, this case went back. So this is years ago. This is 2020, in April, and I went to court. I represented myself, or presented myself for this one, because it's not a complicated case. And I cross-examined the so-called authorised officer. I'm going to call him the unauthorised officer. And and I said to him, "Are you an authorised officer under Section 30 of the Act?" And he said, "Yes, I am." So I said, "Oh, okay, that's interesting." Because, can you just give me one sec? My children are very loud in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just said, "Are you authorised under Section? Are you an authorised officer under Section 30?" And he said, "Yes, I am." I said, "Okay, it's interesting because your ID was signed by the Chief Health Officer, but it says in Section 30 it has to be signed by the Secretary. Why is that?" And he said, "Oh, well, the Secretary's delegated their authority over to the Chief Health Officer." And I went, "Oh, okay, that's interesting. That'll be under Section, I think it was Section 16, and then he agreed." And I went, "Okay." But it says that the Secretary, by instrument, which an instrument's like a notice, can delegate their authority. Is that what's happened? And the unauthorised officer said yes. And I went, "Okay, where's the instrument?" So the unauthorised officer said, "Oh, we're going to have to find that." And I said, "No need. I have two USB sticks here, each containing all 155 instruments under the Public Health and Wellbeing Act, and there fails to be one enabling you to exist under the Act." So then the magistrate got into the conversation, and he's asking, "Is this correct? Is this true?" And he gave I call him the unauthorised officer. He's meant to be an authorised officer. The magistrate gave him an opportunity to provide this instrument, this notice, and he gave him till the 9th of December. So we were in court on the 3rd of October, and he adjourned the case off until the 9th of December. to come back and provide this instrument or this notice in the Government Gazette, which shows that the delegation of their authority from the Secretary over to the Chief Health Officer. Now, this stuff sounds really boring, but it can be fun. So anyway, I turn up on the 9th. The case is adjourned to the 9th. I turn up on the 9th, and the magistrate just says, I'm of the opinion that the officer was authorised, and he just rules in his favour. I said, but hang on, he didn't provide the instrument. I've raised the matter. Okay, you've ordered him to come back and provide it, and he hasn't provided it. And he just said, oh, well, I'm of the opinion that he was an authorised officer. So they just threw me under the bus in the magistrate's court. And so now I have to review it. I have to review it in the Supreme Court, where I can basically show that the magistrate denied me procedural fairness, because the procedure is, if I raise an issue and I have evidence, they have an obligation to counter that or rebut the evidence, which he didn't do, even though he was ordered to do it by the magistrate. So it's just, and it's interesting because the court room for our magistrate's court has like a logo with a kangaroo in it. So it's literally a kangaroo court. So it's going to the Supreme Court. We go to an actual proper court where they will look at these details in fine detail. They'll go through it like a fine tooth comb, and this is kind of a blessing, because if he's found to be unauthorized, that means all of those authorised officers are unauthorised. That means the state is now going to be open to litigation from all of the business owners that were affected by those unauthorised officers, and all of those fines are going to get thrown out, and it'll be a big deal. So it'll be a good win for the people. So that can't happen.
Awesome.
If the magistrates court give me the result that I want, it's not a precedent set out the same way it is in the Supreme Court, because I would have to then publicise the results of the case to as many people as and then that's the only way you get the case out there. But the Supreme Court, it becomes law. Like, everything is undone. All the damage that's been done is meant to be undone. People are notified. Things are changed in the Parliament. So so that's one of them. That's one of the one of the cases I've got, and then obviously I've got a couple of other ones. One of them is assault of police. Another one's assault of police. In both cases, I was assaulted by the police, but then because they assaulted me,
those videos just show everything that you went through, Nick. That was if anyone hasn't seen them, you can find them on. I mean, they just tried to completely cut everything up and to make you look like you were the aggressor, and it was just the other way around. It's actually, I mean, it's just the thing. I think it was Aldous Huxley as well, where he talked about that the final heinous act was basically telling you what you saw with your eyes isn't true. But like what you said there about Supreme Court, that is fantastic actually, that it's gone there, so that if you do win, or when you win, hopefully, that would change everything. But it's crazy that they can literally just say, well, I don't, they can just go against whatever. It's just almost like they don't really care, even if you're right. They'll just be like, well.
The magistrate said to me, he goes, well, you can appeal the decision. Yep, you're in your right to appeal the decision. He was smiling at me. And I know why they do it, because they're...
You waste your time, it's more money, it's everything.
Yeah, well, it doesn't really cost me any money, because when you represent yourself or present yourself, it doesn't cost you anything. But
it's your time, right? So it's just stopping your earning as well. Yeah,
but it gives you... It's like sparring, it makes you better at fighting. You got to look at it in the positive. And he's done actually. He's really. I mean, I've got an appeal in the county court, but I'm going to be and I've still got that because I lodged an appeal immediately. But I'm doing the judicial review, so I'll have all that paperwork put in very soon. And it's a very clear cut case, but I understand why they do this, because they're protecting, the other government officials from being open to litigation as well. They're protecting their power base. And the reason why it actually becomes very winnable is because these government officials create such complicated legislation and rules that they don't even understand it themselves.
No, I can imagine.
So if I just spend a lot of time looking at the legislation as it's written, just looking for the problems in the legislation, you'll find that because it's all compartmentalized. So this government agency and this government agency, and they're all sort of working together, but they don't really understand the full picture. They're making mistakes all the time. Like they required my consent according to the Public Health Act because I was private. I was open to the private. I was open to the public. Once I took my sign down and got rid of my Facebook page. So and I had a sign at the front. Well, they haven't even thought about that. When I was going up against the prosecutor, he's saying, well, Section 190 of the Act says that we can enter your property without warrant. And I said, yeah, but look at the rest of the section. It says it's subject to reasonable grounds. You've got to have grounds. And the High Court has said for you to have grounds, you've got to have factual evidence. Did you have any factual evidence that I'm committing any kind of offence? And it's like, and he puts his hand in his head. He wasn't a very good prosecutor. And it's interesting because when I went back on the 9th, after it was adjourned, I went back to court. Usually, so I always have a prayer beforehand, and I usually get inspired with the words to say when I need to say them. But nothing was coming into my mind, and I was looking at the prosecutor, and he was really, really confident. And we just smashed him last time, annihilated him in there. He was completely out of his depth. And actually, a friend of mine said, he's a very good legal researcher. He said, he's the worst prosecutor I've ever come across. Police prosecutor. So he wasn't like a Crown prosecutor. But anyway, he was so confident. And I had the thought, they've already decided. He already knows they've won.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
He already knows. He's been told, yeah, look, you're going to be all right. Don't worry about it. I'll look after you. So it is very corrupt. It is an evil system. This whole system is evil. It's not good. I'm sure there was some good things in it historically, but as time progresses, evil people find a way to corrupt everything that's good. And I think we're at the end now.
Yeah, I don't even know if you look at the history, has it ever been good, mate? Like when you look at some of the things, some of it's like when you look at these documentaries that go into the any of these companies, for example, DuPont or Monsanto, or companies that have produced Teflon, or if you look at, the trials of like the Chicago 7, or there's so many that you can point where they've just literally, they've decided what's happening beforehand. It's super corrupt. This is why, like, if something's happened and they want to put you in prison, just be like, just leave the country. Just like, I'm not going to go to prison for what? For what you say is wrong, which is not wrong, and also, or for things that I haven't done, that you said I've done, or that you've just basically made up and it's system's corrupt. It's why people leave. It's like, why would you, it's just crazy. Like, you can't even, when the system's rigged, there's been quite a high profile person, it's going on the internet right now, has been put in prison in Romania for offences that apparently he's been, I don't know if you know who Andrew Tate is at all.
Yeah, no. Knows Tate.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the history of what he's had accused against him before, the evidence they had, which was literally nothing, and these other things that have come up, and it's like the amount of people that have come out on his side, and it's just like, if they want to take you down, they will. I don't know the full story, but judging on past history I've read about the cases that they tried to imprison him on, it's like laughable, the evidence they had compared to the evidence that he had, and it was just that they still dragged him through the courts for 4 years, and they do it to everyone, and so it's like, at what point, it's almost like for the system has to be burned down to the ground. And this is why they're quickly trying to, to do what they're doing, especially with like the WEF, and trying to tell people like you're going to own nothing and be happy and everything like that, man. And this whole AI thing that's coming out now, Nick, I don't know if you've seen that. Is that the remember we had a
The
phone
game
call, a
changer
couple
for
of
them.
game changer for them, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember we had a phone call probably about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, and you were talking about how a false god or a false savior will come. And I mean, I think AI. I think Rudolf Steiner talked about that as well. I mean, what's your thoughts on this AI?
Oh, look, I don't know enough about it. All I know is AI. If there was true AI, it would be something. It has to be something because there's no such thing. It's just algorithms, right? Someone programs the algorithm. It's limited by those algorithms. So this is something different. This is not what they're telling us is AI is not. It's not. It's something else, and we're not given full disclosure on that. You mean you got to look at why do they have these great big portal images of Shiva walking out of like a portal in CERN? Why do they do these Gotha tunnel ceremonies? With Angela Merkel money and they've got all this crazy satanic stuff happening. Well, it's because there's something there. This idea of, and now we're going to enter into the spirit. We're going from the legal discussion to the more deeper discussion. But all of this knowledge, it comes from fallen angels. It really does. This is beyond. This is not humans didn't come up with this stuff. They weren't given this stuff. And if you look through history, every nation or society that ruled over the other ones, or had their gods, right, which I would say are their fallen angels, elevated in their they'd have a temple devoted to that particular god. They would have that god's name throughout the whole of their society. They would pray to that god. They'll talk about that god, and that's when they get their knowledge from. And that's in the book called the Book of Enoch. I don't know if you've heard of that, but
Yeah.
it used to be in the Bible, and they took it out. And it literally talks about 200 fallen angels coming down and giving knowledge to man, basically forbidden knowledge, which is actually what happened in the beginning with Satan. He gives knowledge. He gets the Adam and Eve to partake of the forbidden fruit, which is the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. Anyway, so these people given all this knowledge and from these fallen angels, and it would come via a contract. So you've made agreements with these beings, and these beings, these fallen angels, go, all right, well, we will give you this power. And the power is knowledge, right? That's what all the Freemasons are into. That's why they wear that cloth over their loins. It represents when Adam was and Eve knew they were naked after they took of the fruit. They immediately took fig leaves to cover their nakedness. That's like one of the first rituals they go through when they go through through Masonry. So, and that's what that represents. So they're coming into knowledge, but they keep the knowledge and we don't. We don't have it. And there's a really good book called Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, and it was it has the first ever Bilderberg policy that was adopted by the Bilderberg Group in 1954. And it says in there that a nation or world of people who will not use their intelligence are no better than animals who do not have intelligence. Such people are beasts of burden and stakes on the table by choice and consent. I agree with that. I agree that if you choose not to use your intelligence, then you are like an animal. You have an obligation to use your intelligence. God gave it to you. Then it says, and this is in the energy section of the book, it says that the education given to the lower class must be of the poorest sort. And obviously the lower class is us. It's everybody that's not the super elite. So the education given to the lower class must be of the poorest sort, so that the mote of ignorance isolating the inferior class from the superior class is and remains incomprehensible to the inferior class. With such an initial handicap, even bright lower class individuals have little, if any, hope of extricating themselves from their assigned lot in life. This form of slavery is essential to maintain some form of peace and tranquility for the ruling upper class. This is exactly what they said in their first ever policy they adopted. It also says the family unit of the lower class must be disintegrated by a process of increased preoccupation of the parents and the establishment of government-operated daycare centres for the occupationally orphaned children. So the destruction of the family unit, the education being just complete garbage, so that we're just ignorant. because my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge or ignorance, which is a biblical verse, they're applying it in reverse. They're making us ignorant with their power. They're using their power to make sure we're ignorant so that we are destroyed and we destroy ourselves. And then they claim jurisdiction or a right over us because we don't use our intelligence. And if we don't use our intelligence, we don't have any rights because we have an obligation to use our intelligence. So this was adopted by the policy. So they were continuing the work they started in 1948 at Harvard University. So this has been going on for a while, and this is the one that we're in. So the stuff that we learn about everything.
1948, you said 1948.
Yeah, 1954 was when they had that first ever Bilderberg meeting that we know of, but 1948 is when they started this. This is the work they started at Harvard University.
He says Silent Weapons for Silent Wars is the book.
Called Quiet Wars, yeah.
Quiet Wars.
The silent weapon it's basically economic weaponry where they can manipulate, the economy in a way that controls people.
Well, yeah, and they've been they've been doing it they do that however long, and this is what's happening right now. People have no idea what's coming when it comes to that and everything else. It's it's interesting. You say quiet wars as well. Like now, they don't even have to have a World War I or World War II. They make everyone, it's World War III through the TV. People go and do whatever the man on TV tells them to do. Go and take this poison injection, go for it, and they can kill however many people they need to through people's ignorance and just believing what the man on the TV says. People won't see they went without seeing their families because a person on TV told them to. It's like crazy.
It's amazing because we talked about the AI, right? So I think that where I was getting with that was these fallen angels, right? That gave us knowledge. You look at the technology we have. This is not in the mind or realm of man to create this. These systems of controlling other people, it's beyond human, right? It's beyond that. So
why would you say that? Why would you say that? Because we're we're at a deeper level. We're just pure love.
No. What I mean is the knowledge that's being employed.
It's been downloaded from fallen angels.
Yeah, it's coming from it's beyond human. Like you look at the last sort of 150 years, you look at what's happened with the technology and everything. It's just gone. It's incredibly exponentially fast how this knowledge has been downloaded into the minds of man. But we're building on each other's knowledge so rapidly fast that this is a biblical principle that Satan would come back to take over with these angels, right? So we've got these fallen angels coming down and giving knowledge, and you see the symbols of this stuff in corporate logos. Look at, I think it was the Paramount where you've got like the movie one where all the you've got TriStar, right, with the stars. When you've got the stars that are pointing upside down, that represents fallen angel knowledge as well. When you see the stars coming up, so there's all these really interesting things that we see through logos, through corporate media, and you go, well, why would they all be using this kind of imagery unless there's something to it? But it makes sense because it marries up perfectly with what's biblical and what's in that book of Enoch, and what actually makes sense when you look at information, true information, not the crap that we've been filled with from the universities and the schools, which is just garbage, right? That they tell us things like we're 65 million year old dinosaur bones and we can dig them out of the ground and put them back together. This is what I always use when I talk to people. When we talk about these kinds of issues, I use this as the red pill. I go, do you really think dinosaur bones are 65 million years old? And they go, what do you mean? Well, you tell me. Do you think you can dig a bone out of the ground? It's 65 million years later. It will be a bone and put them back together.
Yeah.
It's not in the... And the fact that you believe that shows that you've been diminished in your intelligence. We haven't thought about it. You were just told to believe this. There was no thinking. Now you think about it now, and then most people go, yeah, that does sound a bit far-fetched. I'm not saying there's no such thing of these creatures. There definitely was these big creatures, but they're not 65 million years old. The history's all been skewed, and it separates us from reality. But the other class, the ruling class, they get the true knowledge, but they keep it to themselves. They don't inspire other people with it. And where do they get this knowledge from? Where do they get this knowledge to literally to manipulate people with finance and money. And where do they get the technological advantage over others? Where does this come from? Is it just some bloke that's really clever that puts it together, or okay, are they getting information from somewhere else? I don't know if you've heard of the Vril Society, but that was a society that that's connected to Adolf Hitler and the SS, and they had these female mediums that would do these rituals, and they would get information and they'd write it down, and that's where they got all this technology.
How do you spell that, Nick? Was it this?
VRILL.
VRILL.
Vril Society. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, they've been using these sort of people. Keep that thought, but they've been using these sort of people, different or the leaders or whatever it is from however long. I mean, even like the Greeks would go and talk to the mystics and see what they thought, I mean, it goes way back and now, and people still do it now. They talk to their spirits, their guides, or whatever it may be, downloading this information. It's been going on for a while. And the scientific materialistic world will tell you it's all nonsense, it can't be done or whatever. But, they're saying that they tell you things are an illusion. They try to bring out all this evidence to make you think it's not true, so they can use it against you yourself. Same as ley lines. There's so many things that they do. Like all the banks are on ley lines. All the royal family douse their houses, and they say it's all nonsense, but they'll do it.
Yeah, they say to us it's nonsense, but they laugh. Yeah. They're laughing at it because they know it's true. They know it's real. They know that they've been given. It's like the Watchers. It talks about the Watchers in the Book of Daniel, right? The Watchers and these beings. I mean, we know there were giants on the earth. We know that these things come from and we do these in movies where they talk about this stuff. They talk about these hybrids between, they say, aliens, right? But it's not aliens like the way that we're told about aliens. They're literally like. There's fallen angels. These are people from the other realm coming down, and that's why every single culture has similar stories. Everyone, and except for our modern day Western lower class culture, which is pretty much everyone that's not in the super elite, they all believe just garbage about everything. That there's no. I mean, you don't learn that there's a spirit. You don't learn that there's a God. You don't learn about any of these internal things. Everything's secular, physical. That's all it is, and it's boring and it's empty. And it doesn't really stimulate an intelligent mind at all. It's boring to an intelligent-minded person.
That's how they get them, though, right? Because they create these demigods in like celebrities and celebrity culture and scientific materialism and everything. It's like the age of Aramon, I think it is in Persian culture, talks just like the materialist, everything's material. Mm-hmm. And so people are worshipping this, thinking that's what it is, that's what they want to do. They try and keep everyone away from realising what they truly are, like their spirit, their soul, their self, not their ego, not their personality, not what they've been told to follow or their program, because they know that once you start doing that, it's crazy, right? We're not a body with a spirit, we're a spirit with a body. And when you start having these conversations, people, it goes over so many people's head because they just don't know, because one, they haven't looked into it, but they just bamboozled with bullshit from the moment they're born.
Well, you got the external voices saying X, and you got the internal voice saying Y, but because you don't really put in much merit to the internal voice, you go with the external voice, and that's how they've got people to go along with the madness. But if people were built on those principles that no, that internal voice is real. Okay, it's real. That's more real than the external one. That internal voice, where the conscience is, that's more real. That's where you feel love, all of these things. It's internally, it's not externally. But people have been disconnected from that. They've been severed from that. So our head, our mind is a doorway to the spiritual world, and it's a gateway to the physical world, right? So it could be both. It's a neutral place. But what's happened is they've filled our minds with lies, so they can sever our connection with God, so that only the external stuff comes in, and then that's how they manipulate us, because the thought precedes the action. So if they fill our minds with all the thoughts that they want, all of those seeds, they will grow what they want to grow, and that's why they want to get to your children. That's why they want your children.
That's why they're trying to hit you at every angle as well, from the food, to the water, to what's on the TV, to the EMFs and everything. And yet the children, that's why they're putting all these laws in place. It's like laws, quote unquote. It's what's been happening in Australia, like that. They've been trying to put more fear into the the public domain, or have they stepped a bit back from that?
No,
Now
they're so there was a shooting in a place called I think it's Bimbilla. It's up north, and there was some police that were shot, and there was this whole it was one of those. It looks like one of those false flag events, which means that the narrative is not true as to what really happened, and the police came to this for apparently a welfare check, but then that changed later on in the media to being that there was a warrant out for one of these blokes arrest.
Arrest, yeah.
Changing, and the police turn up, and then these three people shoot them and kill them, and there's a big shooting. And anyway, the property has been bought by the police union, right? So it's like, well, hang on a minute, why would you buy the property? Oh, we want to make it a like a shrine to these officers. It doesn't make sense. It's like they want to buy it so no one can go there and search it out for evidence. But what's come out of this shooting is that every single mainstream media report has mentioned that the Train family were who shot these police were conspiracy theorists in the conspiracy community, anti-vaxxers, and the other one is sovereign citizens. Right, so they use this term of sovereign citizen. I've heard police have said it to me. Right, it must mean some sort of derogatory.
Oh yeah, that's what my friend who's an American police officer says that. Like he's such a good guy, and he's got the biggest heart. And when he talk about this stuff to him, he's like, it's so weird because when I spoke to him about your case, and he couldn't fucking believe it. He was like, what the fuck? He's like, this is crazy. He said in a certain section he was in California, he's like, they wouldn't even like do any of that stuff to people. He's like, what the fuck is going on? They wouldn't even go and take calls because they thought it was all bullshit. And I was like, it's so funny how certain parts, and there's other parts of the UK and other parts of America and other parts of Australia where the police were doing this. And he was like, it's crazy to me because none of my lot would do it. And I was like, and I said, maybe because of where you are in this sort of town, maybe because you're in like a smaller, sleepier town, and whereas like one of the major cities, but it's like, it was, he couldn't believe it when I told him about your story.
Yeah, well, I mean, what happened to me was the port squad, on the critical incident response unit. They're not very bright. They're like just thick. They're basically like just thugs. They just do chin-ups all day and train all day to hurt people. That's what they're about. They're not like, say, the police fraud squad, which are intelligent. They know how to have a look at the subtle nuances between different paperwork, and they have an eye for detail. They're not like that. They're just thugs. And not every police officer is the same, right? So you've got these different groups of police, different units, and they're completely different people.
This sovereign citizen thing. I remember talking to him about it and saying about how people don't need a license and certain things. It's like when you're driving, you're traveling, unless you're using it for commerce or whatever, and then all these other things. He's like, yeah, it's a sovereign citizen. And I was like, oh, so you come across this quite a lot? He said, yeah, we come across them quite a lot, but we just literally arrest them and take them in, and then they just put through the system. And I was like, that's shocking. He's like, yeah, I know, but that's just what we've got to do. Now they know it. They do know about it.
Yeah, no, I know, but I mean, when the mainstream media are connecting these people that they're saying are terrorists, right wing,
yeah,
and they're connecting it to this sovereign citizen narrative, anti-vaxxer narrative, and conspiracy theorists. So if you're a conspiracy theorist, an anti-vaxxer, then you're a sovereign citizen and you're a threat to our democracy. That's what's been on the news in every single news report.
Yeah. Right.
That's what's happening over here at the moment.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And are people buying into it or not? Because I feel like there's a lot of people now that are seeing more people are seeing through the bullshit, or there's still most people.
No, there's the ones that will never see it because they don't want to see it. They're the ones that have been left over, that like the Bible says, two will be grinding at the mill, one will be taken, the other one left. Two will be in the field, one will be taken, one will be left. It's this idea of You know, there's parables about this too, that people that are left over, it's God's like, all right, you want your lies? There you go, you can have it. And that's it. And they will never be able to see now from that point. Like, they just will not be able to see. There's no way to change their mind from the delusion that's in their mind, because they create this delusion in their mind because they can't deal with the truth and they don't love it. You have to have a will to know the truth. Now, obviously, you have a will to know the truth. You like to study, you like to learn, you like to know what is and what's correct and what's true. But these other people don't. They just want everything to be the way they want it to be. So they'll do all the mental backflips to change their perception so that they can see and perceive the world through a specific lens. Whereas you and I don't. We don't do that. We look at the world objectively to see what it is, so that we have the correct lens to look at the world. And that's the difference between probably, a 50% of the people.
It's just, yeah, I just don't understand. I mean, it's like, to me, I hate injustice. I just want the truth. If it can be destroyed by the truth, it should be. And I think it just comes from deep inside me. Probably the same as you, Nick. It's just like, I don't I just want what's best for everyone, best for humanity. And it's crazy to me that these people don't understand, like, just by being silent and just by doing that, they're actually enslaving themselves even more. It's just batshit crazy to me that these people can't see it. Or it's like when people are, any speech, people can talk about hate speech or stuff, and I'm like, I don't care, hate speech. Call me what you want, say what you want. I think all speech should be free. If someone says something ridiculous or hate based, let them say it, because then people just won't talk to them. The market dictates what happens there. It's trying to mandate speech and all these things, and people say, oh yeah, you can't say that, and I'm like, what are you doing? That's a slippery slope to what we're seeing now. Like, people even making comments about certain things on social media, and they're getting letters from the police saying, oh, you can't say this, and we want you in court. And it's like, oh my God. Like,
well, you think about it. These people that want to take away your ability to speak, they know that they're pushing a narrative that can't be defended with any objective facts, right? They can't defend their position. If you're saying that, men and women can be whatever gender, you can't defend that with any objective reality, that you can't. So you have to silence people's ability to speak about it. Otherwise, it dies. The narrative dies, and the false narrative is the power base for these people that create these false narratives. So that's why they've got to remove speech, because because what happens when you say something and you present an idea? I mean, words just convey ideas, they're concepts. When you share words in a specific way, it inspires people and puts a spirit in their mind of something that's true, and that affects their driving force. So what's happening is they don't want you to say certain words because they know it will affect certain people's a certain percentage of the population, and then they will be inspired, and it will plant seeds in their mind, and those seeds will go to work, and people start conducting themselves in a different way. And the people that create the false narrative don't want that, because they want people to be diminished. They want us diminished in our capacity so that we can't get out of the slave system. So that's why they have to remove speech, because speech is, if you look at it like, what's the beginning of the thing? What's the beginning of the slave system? Well, it's the thoughts in people's minds that are false. That's the very beginning part. That's what they had to do first. And it doesn't matter what time in history it was done one way or another. Whether it's ancient Assyria, who just said, we're going to kill you, and when they'll torture people in front of you and do the most depraved things, well, what that does to people is it puts fear in their mind. We can't win, just do whatever they say, right? That's one form, but that doesn't last long term. Long term, people end up revolting against them. But it's the same thing. It's putting an idea in people's minds that you can't. This is what it is. This is the reality. And by removing everybody's ability to challenge that the reality that they've tried to create, or the narrative, by removing that, saying it's hate speech and all the rest of it, and legislating against it, that way they can much more easily and unrestrictedly get this message into people's minds and plant those seeds, so they can build the world they want the world to be. They can build the world they want to build, because in order to build a secular world as opposed to a spiritual world, where there's a spirit first which drives the body. To create a secular world, you have to fill people's minds with secular thinking and reasoning. And once they've done that, and they've severed the spiritual side of people, then then those people will then go ahead and build the secular world. But if they're spiritual beings that understand that they have a spirit and a purpose and a meaning, and that's why they're here to, what they're here to do is to follow their conscience and do what's spiritually motivating them. Well, they're not going to build a secular world. That doesn't make any sense to them. In their mind, that makes no sense. And the mind is what drives the body, right? So that's what they're doing. If you look at with a bit of perspective, and they're doing a brilliant job of it. And whenever they stuff up, that's when we get an opportunity to potentially, plant some seeds into people's minds and wake people up from this let's say matrix system that they're in.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best way. I mean, it's just like these companies as well that run and sort of stop the information, or they just put like fact check or anything like that, or they stop any information coming out. Like, they've done a very good job. Get everyone on these platforms, and then censor anyone that comes who says anything's truth. I mean, I say how you know something's true is when it gets checked. But it's like these people are working. I get it, like the bigger picture, the people at the top. Obviously, I think they know the plan. They're very evil. But these people working for these companies, like, how can you even want to promote that stuff? It's crazy to me. Like, they're so bought into it, or they think they're doing the right thing. They've been completely brainwashed, and it's like, what, isn't your soul speaking to you? Or like, isn't your gut, your intuition, your Jiminy Cricket telling you what the hell are you doing with this? And they've obviously been programmed. But this is like, as you said, your purpose to be here, Nick. We've all got, when you're looking at your purpose, you're here for a reason to learn what you need to learn, to enjoy your human experience, but to learn what you need to learn. And you come here for a reason. Like, to me, though, what's the reason of these people to be here? Is it to basically force the good from us, because without the dark there is no light? I mean,
no, we were given the freedom to choose. God gives us that's the one thing we're sovereign over, is our ability to make our own choices. So God's not going to take that away from us. This is a battleground. You
don't think that they're like Agent Smiths?
No, they've chosen who they serve. You serve good or evil. You can't be on the fence. You're on the fence. You're serving evil, so you're serving Satan. You're on the other side, and you're all about what's conscionable and you can make mistakes when you follow your conscience. Like, you can be following your conscience and make wrong decisions, but the intention is correct, and it will still work out in some way or another. It's basically, we're divided as a spectrum, but there's a fine line in the middle between what's good and what's bad. There's people that are following their conscience, and there's people that are following the external voices of selfishness, and that's it. So to follow your conscience is generally, it can be very selfless. I have to do this for others. I have to do this I know it's wrong what's happening. I'm looking at my children. I see that they're going to be hurt if we continue this way. Then there's other people that go, well, if I do what they say, maybe I can negotiate a deal with these psychopaths to protect my family, and throw the rest of humanity under the bus. So there's people of both schools of thought, and depending on who, and this is a test. It really is a test. Who's going to choose what? But the choice, the freedom to choose, isn't going to be taken away from God. God's going to God's going to allow us to use that gift, because then it wouldn't be a gift if you just take it away from us. And that's why the world is the way it is, because of that choice. And then the more knowledge that we get from these fallen angels, that ends up in society and in secret societies, the more corrupted those choices become from the corrupted mob, and the more empowered corrupted people become, because the corrupted people are the ones that seek after that sort of stuff. Decent, good, conscionable people don't seek after power the way that the other people do.
Can we not seek for the knowledge to defeat this?
It's already there. It's already there, but it has to run its course.
Which is us coming together.
Exactly. You break down the narrative, the lies, and then and because what happens is the people that it's not a 50-50. It's not like if 50% of the people go along with the crazy psychopaths that have all the guns and everything, and then there's 50% of us that are standing up for the truth. the people that are with the truth actually have a huge advantage. They're empowered people.
Mm-hmm.
They will not give up easily. Whereas the other ones, the other people, like you imagine corrupt police that go around with guns enforcing all the madness. And I mean, think of it like, World War II, let's say an SS soldier, one that's just a nasty piece of work that loves being cruel to people, loves having the power. Do you reckon that if they were challenged, like really challenged, that they would be willing to die for what they claim to believe in? I don't think so. But someone like you and me, I know that there's a God. I know that I'm okay. Whatever happens to me, it's okay. Because I know if I die for something that's good, and there's this really good biblical principle that says all things turn out for good to those who love God and are called according to his purpose. Well, if I end up doing something that causes me to die, but the spirit behind my actions is love, it's goodness, it's compassion. That's not a bad thing. I know I'm going to be okay. But if you're driven by selfishness, pride, arrogancy, and all these things, I don't think that those people are willing to go to those lengths of potentially dying for what they believe in, because they know inherently and consciously, in some degree, and definitely subconsciously, that they're evil, and it's not going to be good for them. Which means if you're evil, you're filled with fear, you're filled with doubt, you're filled with all those bad things.
It's interesting. That was a really nice quote, that one, Nick. Can you repeat that again?
It's all things turn out for good to those who love God and are called according to his purpose. And I'm pretty sure it's in Romans chapter 8. I can just have a look and see if it's...
It's very like, as you said, like, as you know you're here for a reason. You know that if you're doing good and whatever happens to you, you're going to be taken care of because you're doing God's work. You're a light worker, and it's just the part of me that is always like, because we've had been brought up in such an easy society, easy life, so many comforts. Most people would rather just, as long as they have their crisps and their milkshake and sit and watch the TV, they don't want to do anything else. Because we've had so much comfort given to us. It's crazy where you see like society going to the people that like the haves and have-nots, even in terms of like people that understand this, do the spiritual work, do the actual business work, and how they're going one way, and these other people becoming like human slugs. It's like it's crazy, but because we've had such an easy life, easy existence. And people read history books and they think it's like some like past time or it's make believe or like that could never happen to us. It's like, what are you talking about? And it's like they also, people there, they used to fight for their life, or they'd die for what they believed in. And people today, there's just so many people that cowardice is the real pandemic. And just not standing up for what they believe in, and just because they'd rather,
I was just going to say that's because fear has been sowed in their mind, the spirit of fear, and the spirit of fear goes to war with your faith. Then that brings its friend doubt in, and doubt goes to war with your confidence. And these ideas go to war with the other ideas, because the spirit is the idea, it's the conscious thought. So that's what's happened. And that Bible verse was Romans 8:28.
Romans 8:28.
8:28. Yeah, really good verse. Now I have to go very soon because it's my son, my third son's birthday today, and they're about to go. But yeah, is there anything else you want to chat about quickly before we go?
No, mate. Anything else you want to tell us about what's going on, what you're doing? Anything else you want people to know about?
Yeah, look, I'm just doing the the big court case. I've got a 15-day trial mid-year against the police. I've got 43 police witnesses. And look, I'm still trying to raise funds for that one because the workload is beyond what I can do physically myself. But yeah, look, I'm just doing that, and I plan to put some police in jail. And I believe that if we have the public behind us and people aware of what we're doing and supporting us, I think that we can do a good job of it.
Where can people help you with those? With the funds, Nick, where can people, if they want to donate, if they want to help you out, where can they go to?
I've set up a webpage, fightcorruptpolice.com or www.fightcorruptpolice.com. Yeah, and I've got a Telegram channel that I've set up called it's t.me/fightcorruptpolice. And the idea and the emphasis is on corrupt police, not the good ones. I know some of the good ones. It's just the corrupt ones, which is actually a lot of them, because it's a corrupted system. But yeah, look, any help would be great. I'm just trying to raise some funds. I'm getting a lot of help from lawyers that are helping me for nothing, but there's a workload that I need to pay them as well because it's.
And what are you trying to raise? How much are we looking at, Nick?
Oh, look, for this 15 days in the county court with the jury trial. There's about 400 hours of body camera footage to go through multiple times. There's probably about 60 statements. There's 43 use of false reports. There's a like over 400-page brief of evidence. Then there's all the research going into it. It's just a huge amount of money. I probably need to raise probably another $100,000 to get the right eyes on all of those particulars, but we've done a lot of the work already, and I'm doing what I can, but I just can't do it all. I don't have it. There's 24 hours in a day. I could work for maybe 4 of those 24 hours on it per day. It probably needs about 60 hours a day of work to do everything properly. And we've also requested basically every other resource that we can from the police, and we need to go through it as well so that we can find every single thing that's problematic to their case against me so that we can just rip them to shreds.
Okay, so people who are listening, go to those links if you can, donate whatever you can. I definitely will be to help out our man Nick, because he's a real bastion for the truth, and he's someone that has really put his neck on the line for everyone. Because his videos did go viral, they inspired people around the world, and it's the least we can do is to help him out. And I'll see anyone else can help you, mate, as well. But it's definitely I'm with you all the way in spirit, mate, and with anything you can do, it's I think you're an inspirational person, mate, just what you've done is pretty remarkable, but as you said, you're here for your purpose. You're a knight trying to shine that light in the darkness, and it's good to have you on our team, because there's a lot of people out there that have been through what you went through, would have easily thrown in the towel ages ago. But what you're fighting for is right and correct, and you stand in truth. And, it's, remarkable, mate. It really is.
Thanks so much for that. I really enjoy these chats with you. We always have a really good chat. We'll have to do it again soon. Yeah, I'm just going to keep fighting the fight. This is what I'm here to do. If anyone wants to help, I would gladly appreciate it. And look, I hope we get a really good outcome in the end that really helps the people and inspires them, that if they are diligent and if they do keep fighting and not quitting, that they will get the result they want in the end, if it has a basis in truth. And that's the Bible verse right there, that he who endures to the end shall be saved, and which is where we get the legal maxim, he who leaves the battlefield first loses by default. So I'm not going to leave the battlefield, and I'm not going to lose by default, so I'm not going to quit.
No, that's not in you, my man. But yeah, cheers for coming on, Nick. We'll definitely have another conversation. We've got a bit more time, but awesome, mate. Thanks for doing this.
Take care. God bless. Bye.